Welcome back to House Rich, the Millennial Real Estate Show. Today we're going to talk about a article here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, but can apply anywhere, about a couple that had a builder build their dream home, and that builder canceled the contract on them 6 days before they closed. So we're going to talk about some lessons learned. We're going to talk about my experience purchasing a new home and why you definitely want to use a realtor, and a way to save money, even if you think you don't need a realtor. There's really no reason not to use a realtor. So we're going to break it all down. And first, when we get to the story, we're going to share from the homeowner's perspective as well as the builder's perspective. Then give my commentary, then go into how you can save money by simply using a realtor. So the couple was Tim and Karen Dickens. And so they were in a position where, hey, they want to build their dream home. And so if you've never built a home before, had a home built, they can take a while. This is a very nice home. So on average, you're building a home can take anywhere between like 4 months to about 8 months, depending on like what size the home is, the area of the home, etc. And so I'm not sure what the original timeline was for the home, but this scenario, it took 16 months to build their home. So they signed a contract with the builder in December of 2020 for $525 for this home in Weatherford, Texas. And so stuff happens. There were delays. During that time frame, COVID, there were a lot of labor restraints. There was lumber shortages. So there were delays that were kind of expected, or not expected, but they just say we got to deal with these delays during the process. So they were fine. They were rolling with the punches. They knew one part of the contract, it was a contingent on them selling their home, which they didn't think would be an issue, in this hot market. And so they also had the option of a $2,000 a month carrying cost. Essentially, what that is that if you don't sell your home before the home is ready, for every month that the builder has to keep this home, they're going to charge you $2,000, which is because the builder has to pay taxes and insurance on that property that is just sitting there. So they have to recoup some of the costs as well. They can't just have that home sitting there forever. And so, per the customer, they did what they did what they were said to do. Mind you, they signed this contract in December 2020, and so the builder was kind of leaning on them to say, "Hey, we need to sell your home." And so they actually ended up putting their home on the market in January of 2022. Went off the market pretty quick. It sold in like 2 weeks, they said. And so the contract wasn't canceled until June of 2022, this year. And so that's 6 months later. So they had them sell their home like 6 months before it was actually ready. And the homeowner kind of said, hey, the home was nowhere near ready, but they're like, hey, there's our dream home. We're just going to do what needs to be done to get the contract, get things done. They gave all the earnest money. They gave money for upgrades all throughout this process, expecting everything to be good to go when it came time to get their home. And so it was actually scheduled to be ready like a month ago, but then there was something to do with carpet or something like that. And so it got delayed again due to carpet. Due to carpet. So trying to get this story straight, but you kind of see which way I'm kind of leaning on the story. And then they got a few weeks back, or maybe in May, they got a text. And so I'm going to read just the first line of the text. It said, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but Glacier Homes / Kendrick Homes has decided to terminate the contract with you dated 12/15/2020. Then there's another part like, hey, we need your mailing address to send the contract, yada, yada, yada. But they sent this family a text message after 16 months of working with them saying that they were having to cancel the contract. No real reason, but we'll get into the actual reason from the builder. Or the reason was it was canceled due to convenience, which was a clause in the contract. So yeah, so we'll get into that in a second. So from the builder's POV, they were building the home. They didn't know what was going to happen in 2021 and 2020. They signed the contract with the couple for $525,000, and prices did go up. Lumber prices went up. Costs went up. And so things were kind of rolling out of control, apparently. But one thing from their perspective, they did not say that, hey, we were ever communicating to the couple that they were going to be higher price, or we're experiencing material shortages, and the prices for them to build the home was jumping up. Because honestly, from their perspective, they're building a home, but you don't expect someone to lose money to build a home. So I gotta see from their point of view, understanding that labor or lumber and stuff went up, but they did not say at all that they communicated anything to the home buyer between signing the contract and sending that text, which means they did it, because if they did, they would have said that, hey, we've been communicating to the homeowner this whole time that, the price would go up. And so their side of the story is, fees and costs went up, but they offered to sell the place to the homeowner at cost, basically, so that they would break even at $750,000, and the couple declined. So that's their side of the story. So here's my opinion. I mean, that's kind of BS. I mean, there's really no scenario where the builder's just like, hey, we've been working on this project for 16 months. We've not communicated anything to you. We told you to basically sell your home when we knew that the home was nowhere near ready. I think to try to lean on the home buyers to get them to back out of the contract. They were like, hey, we can't do the $2,000 carrying cost. You got to sell it now, yada, yada, yada. It's BS that they claim that they were just trying to break even on the home, because that makes no sense from a business perspective. It's like, hey, we're going to just break even on this home. And then, like in a letter, when the news station called them out, they were like, hey, there were 160 homes under contract or people on the waiting list, blah, blah, blah. So just be honest with you. You guys wanted to just get more money for the home. That's just what it is. Because first off, if the sales price is $525,000, it's not like they were breaking even at $525,000. That doesn't make any sense. So they were obviously making a profit on the home to begin with. And once again, there was no communication. But there was this clause in the contract called cancel for convenience, which literally means that the builder could just cancel the contract for whatever reason they want to. And why is that very important? It's because when you're dealing with new construction homes and builders, the contract is a lot different from like the standard state contract. So in Texas, it's Texas Real Estate Commission. It's basically all contracts are standard when you're buying like single pre-existing homes from realtor to realtor. There's like a standard contract everybody uses because it's fair for the buyer and the seller. So this builder contract is just heavily weighted all in the builder's favor. And so it essentially says, like I said, they can cancel for no reason. Then there's a bunch of things that it's clearly that they wrote out saying that, hey, you can't put a lien on this home. You agree to release any liens on this home. It was basically a bunch of bullet points saying that they were thinking of like every scenario that somebody would try to sue them for like this BS tactic. And they put in a clause in the contract to basically waive their right. And like there's one part of the contract that says that, hey, the most damages that you can sue us for are $500. So the seller, the buyer signed the contract, hey, people just assume everything is all good in that scenario. So they did not have a realtor. And so that's very important as well, because when you're signing something, I mean, it's the biggest financial decision of your life. Have a realtor read it. They're the professional. Hopefully they would have called out some of those things in the contract. And then two, you can have a lawyer read the contract as well if you don't want to hire a realtor for whatever scenario. But let's talk about using a realtor in new construction. Like whenever these homes are priced, the realtor's commission is built into the sales price. Like you're not getting a different price because you're using a realtor or not using a realtor. That's not how that works. It's not like a forced sale by owner. So like in Texas, it's 6% commissions. Let's make the numbers super easy. So if a home's being sold for $100,000, 6% of that is $6,000. So the cushion or the amount of money the builder expects to make, they've already calculated that $6,000 commission into the sale of the home. And so typically when homes are being sold, there's a realtor selling the home. And so that realtor works for the builder. So if there's a scenario where you're just using or communicating with the builder's realtor, who works for the builder, mind you, gets a check from the realtor, from the builder, has a name tag on their shirt from the builder. They work for the builder and they're getting that commission, whether you bring your realtor to the table or not. So you might as well bring a realtor to negotiate on your behalf. And here's a hack you can do as well. If you're like, hey, I found this home all by myself, I don't need a realtor, it's all good. What you can do is, especially like in Texas where it's 3% commission that the realtor is going to get, just say to the realtor, hey, I found a home, I want you to represent me, but since I've already found the home, we've not really done anything, I want you to give me back 1% of commission, or 2%, or 1.5%, whatever you want to negotiate. And so from the realtor perspective, it's like, hey, they didn't really do anything. I mean, the part of being a realtor, I mean, the big majority thing you do as a realtor is help someone find a home and negotiate what's on the contract. So if they're not doing that, a lot of realtors will happily say, "Hey, I'll read the contract essentially for 1.5% of the sales price." And if you actually sometimes if you Google new construction realtors, you'll find realtors who have that as part of like their, for lack of a better term, their scheme is like, "Hey, you find a builder, I'll get 3% commission, but I'll give you 1.5% of that commission back." So it's kind of like a win-win for both of those people. And so that's something you can simply do if you don't have a realtor already. But there's really no reason not to use a realtor. Like they are a professional, they're supposed to be able to pick out these type of things in the contract. And unfortunately, this couple did not have a realtor. So I'm going to tell you a quick story about the home I'm sitting in right now. And thankfully, my wife and I used a realtor for purchasing this home. And so my wife and I have been kind of casually looking for about 3-4 months for a home. And we actually found this property in this neighborhood that we're in right now. And so we found it on our own. We like the place. We just looking at new construction homes. And so we signed it and all that, and we kind of went home. Then the next day, excuse me, the next day, I get a call from the sales rep. I think the home we looked at was like 369, and they're like, "Hey, we can get the C for the base price because they were upgrades for 329." And so I was like, "Okay, I mean, we're thinking about buying the home at 369. We definitely love it at 329." And so we went in like a day later, and we signed the contract, got a pre-qual. So this is actually my first month in the mortgage industry. Got a pre-qual from the company that I was working with, and signed the contract in 2 days. It was a already existing new construction home. Actually, the previous couple had actually backed out of the deal, and so just due to, I guess, some marital stuff, nothing to do with the house, they'd actually backed out of the deal. So the home was sitting there for my fiance and I to swoop in. And so I pointed out I've been in the mortgage industry for about a month at that point, and I got my company to sign or to do the pre-qual for me. Not to get into too much details, but my company screwed up and they couldn't get the deal done for whatever reason. So this is like 3 weeks into the contract. I think we were supposed to be closing in like 10 more days. And so I was like, "Oh crap." And so I didn't know what to do. I relayed this to my realtor who, like I said, he didn't help me. He didn't help us find the home at all, but we looped him in on just representing us basically. And so, he was able to smooth things out with the builder, get us, 2 more weeks to close. On top of that, I think on top of that 10 days, he was able to refer us to one of his preferred lender who knocked out our pre-qual, bam, 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 and we're able to close on time. But like that scenario, I'm not sure if we'd been able to close on that home if we hadn't been working with a realtor who was a professional at negotiating with the builder. If we just decided, hey, we didn't need a realtor to be involved in this transaction, we're just going to do it ourselves. And once again, the realtor's commission was already baked into the sales price, so it's not like we lost anything or we paid more for the home. And so, yeah, that was back in 2017-ish. And so, not to get too much details, I guess you listen to this long. I'll tell you. And so, we bought the home for like 329, and so, like their home is literally on the same street right now, selling for 585. And so we have close to like, we paid down the loan. We have close to like $300,000 in equity at this point. At this point, like I said, we thought about selling the home, but it's like, where do you move at this point? So you get a bunch of equity. We like our home, and there's a lot of cool things being built near it as well. We bought this home where there's like nothing out here in Texas, and there's a Starbucks being built right in front of the neighborhood, which my wife is a huge fan of. So that's my story on that's my story. But big takeaway is just always use a realtor when you're buying a home. There's no reason not to, essentially, unless you're buying a for sale by owner place. Then using a realtor may hamper you a little bit. But that's a story for another podcast episode. So thanks for listening. I'm going to be covering like more news stories or daily topics or something like that. So hopefully you like those. If you don't like them, let me know as well. And I guess I won't do these, but I think these will be interesting. Thanks.